Hey everyone, welcome back to the Clean Slate podcast. My name is KD. I'm really glad that you decided to join me again today. As I've said multiple times before, this is a journey, so bear with me. There's a lot to cover, and feel free to comment, feel free to share your experience. I really want to hear from you. When I started this podcast, I shared with you the story of my separation, and when I started with that process, I just really wanted to get a clear head. That was really my initial thought process. The separation made me realize that I needed to go further and get a divorce. For my situation, in my case scenario, it was needed. As I started the divorce proceedings, and we had separated, my ex was living in the house, and I was kind of like going from house to house with my children. At some point, we were sleeping at some friend's house so they could go to school. They were sleeping on an air mattress. I was sleeping on a sofa. It was a very difficult time, but the separation really gave me a clear head, and it made me understand that the situation that I was in wasn't healthy. It was really tough because it's gonna sound really toxic, probably what I'm gonna say, but like I felt comfortable in my toxicity. I felt like I didn't want to leave because, like, in theory, I had a house, I had a husband, I had children, and it made sense. And so the easy thing was to stay. But I realized that the healthiest thing was for me to leave. And as I left and paid the cost to leaving, I came to the realization that this is not healthy. This is not a good situation for neither me nor my children. And I decided to start the divorce proceedings. I went to court to return back into my house. The court proceedings were pretty tough, and it was very costly as well. But I was able to return back to my home with my children, and they were able to go to school, etc., etc. The next part was I think was one of the hardest parts, because my ex was no longer in the house, and it was just me and the children. And that part was hard because it really made me take a good look at myself, into my part, and how this situation escalated and what I let happen in my marriage. And so I was back in the house, and although my ex had a lot of issues, he was like the big bad wolf in my story. And so whenever I had someone to blame for not being able to do something, for not being able to advance in my career, not being able to go to school or anything like that, he was my scapegoat. And so it was easy to blame him for not being able to do the stuff I couldn't do in my life. But now I was by myself with my children, and I had to take a long look at myself and realize all my flaws were just jumping at me, and I needed to do some work on myself. And that was hard. That was hard to do because it wasn't a pretty look. I need to do some growing up. I needed to heal. So the first thing I did was I called a therapist. I actually called two therapists, and I kind of stuck with both. Called one from my son as well. I had two younger children, so I didn't really do it for them, but I don't discourage therapy. I think I strongly encourage it because you need to have an objective look at yourself as well. You need to have someone that has an objective look at your situation to guide you through that. They're professionals and they can really help. I also realized how much I needed to pray. The first couple of months I kind of did my own thing, and although I come from a Christian family and I was serving in the church, I was singing in the church as well, but there was a lot of things that I had repressed inside of me, and so I did not prioritize God in my healing at first. And something happened with my eldest. He was 16 at the time, and he wasn't himself. we had an altercation, and I was afraid for my life. I was afraid of him, and I saw a lot of what I was feeling with my ex. I saw it in my son. So although my ex was no longer in the house, I experienced it in my son, and it really scared me because I had not realized the impact of having my children in that kind of environment until he left. And when he left, I realized how much it impacted my children as well. Like, we were really suffering from that, and we all needed to heal from that. And so something happened with my son. Like, my son, he left the house. He didn't come back home at first, and then there was an altercation with him. He ended up going to live with his dad. It really affected me. But then I realized, as I had this altercation with my son, that I needed to pray, because whatever had entered my house was spiritual. It was beyond my physical strength. It was beyond my flesh, and I needed to fight for my family in prayer. And so as soon as this happened with my son and that he was gone, I went back into my bedroom, and I did not sleep on the bed that night. I slept on the floor, and I said, I'm gonna fast for 3 days. So I put my covers on the floor. I put my body on the floor. Like, I wanted to humiliate myself to the lowest so that I could fast and cry in prayer to God, because I did not know what to do. I was completely lost. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not know how to pray at that point. But one thing that I had been doing, I have the Bible app on my phone, so every once in a while I read something, I highlight some verses that I like. And so I did not know how to pray at that point. I needed to fast. I needed to spend time in prayer, worry about what I'm pouring into my body. So no social media, no TV. And I used to be a big TV show fan. I used to watch TV shows all the time. I just wanted to pour everything and anything godly into my soul and remove everything that didn't belong. So I played some worship, and then I opened my Bible app. And all the highlights that I had done throughout my life, really, I started reading the verses one by one. And I just kept saying stuff and pronouncing stuff over my life, over my children's lives, over my house, because I didn't know what to say. I think God kind of whispered that to me, and I started doing that, and that's how I started praying for myself, for my family. And that really changed my perspective, because from that point on, I stopped. There's a lot of things that I kind of was just doing for fun, especially the TV shows. I realized there was an issue with the type of things I was pouring into my body, and I didn't want to do that anymore. Not that there's an issue with watching a movie once in a while or things like that, but your spirit is being fed. You're feeding your soul what you want it to eat. So if it's outside stuff, or if it's Instagram, or if it's TV shows, this is what you're feeding your soul with. And I just made a resolve that I was gonna pour into my spirit more of God than anything else. And that was truly a shift for me, because as I started changing what I was watching, what I was listening to, as I started praying, my perspective started to change. My life started to change as well. There was a lot of things that I was holding on to. There's a lot of things that I blamed my ex on, but I never set boundaries. There were things that I got into this relationship without having healed from a previous situation that I had lived. I really did not pay attention to red flags. I didn't listen to the people that were around me that spoke to me about the issues. Those consequences that I lived were because of the decisions I made. And I had to take responsibility for that. And that part was ugly, because when I had the big bad wolf in my house, I could blame him. But when I just had me and my children, I was the only person responsible. And so I took a lot of time. It took me a long time to heal, but I was decisive in that healing. I really wanted to heal. I needed to heal. And I really pushed for that. healing is necessary. You have to. You absolutely have to make some introspection. There's people and there's things surrounding you that have an impact on you, but you have the biggest impact on you. And if you don't pour into yourself, if you don't watch for what you pour into yourself, if you don't make sure that you push towards your healing, like there's an expression that we say in French where you have to like make yourself violent. I don't think you can really say that in English, but you have to basically be violent towards yourself and really make some decisions that are radical towards yourself in order for you to make changes. It takes a leap of faith. It takes radical decisions for change to happen. That's what saved me. It saved me, and it made me understand my part in the mistakes that I've made throughout my marriage, where I could have turned my situation around. And, you know, I strongly believe that this whole situation really helped me grow, as crazy as it was, and as you'll learn. But that moment was decisive in my life because that's when things started shifting for me. And as I said before, it may have felt like I was losing everything, but I was finally finding myself. I was finding my voice back, which had been choked out of me. And it changed me. It changed my life. It changed my decision making because I wasn't thinking like a broken person anymore, although I had been broken, but I was thinking like a healed person. I was thinking like a changed person, and it changes lives. Healing is important, and I strongly encourage you to go look for the help that you need, because it was a combination of those things: the therapy, God, what I poured into my life, the people I surrounded myself with, the decisions that I started making, that helped me a lot. So I strongly encourage you, whatever you pour into your life, analyze what it is. There was a time I couldn't pray, but I listened to a lot of messages. I have a personal preacher that I really appreciate, that's helped me a lot. Like, I listened to all of his series. It helped me. I poured a lot of positive things in my life. So I encourage you to have an introspection on yourself and to really look at yourself and start seeing what you can do about your situation, how you can help with your healing, and just make a step, and things are going to start falling into place slowly but surely. But it's never too late. It's never too late to have your own clean slate. So I encourage you. God bless.